Hey, welcome from Independence Square. My son Nathan and I are on a little road trip, and just a couple hours ago had a really great conversation with a couple of guys, Andrew and Byron, both from South Africa. And they were asking some questions about American history, and I was talking a little bit about it, the westward expansion and all that stuff, far beyond some things I knew. But nonetheless, I turned to them and I said, hey guys, I'd really like your opinion on a couple of questions, especially from South Africa. I'd like to know what you guys might think. I said, I'd like to suggest there's two key questions in life. One, is there a God? And if there's a God, is he knowable? Can you have contact and communication with him? What do you think? Andrew was more of kind of the pantheistic or monistic persuasion that there's sort of the God within you and sort of related to that whole viewpoint. Byron, on the other hand, was more of maybe agnostic, atheistic, sort of like, you know, religion's good for a culture because it kind of keeps things in bounds and there's a sense of right and wrong or morality and that kind of thing. And with that, I kind of said to him, I said, well, have you ever read the writings of C.S. Lewis? And he said, are you guys familiar with C.S. Lewis? And they both were. Very sharp guys. I think from their perspective, it was more with Chronicles of Narnia. I said, well, you know, he also wrote a book called Mere Christianity. And he talked about some of the things about, and one of the things that moved him from an atheistic persuasion to a theistic and obviously to a Christian perception was the whole idea that if there is not a moral lawgiver, then how do you have a framework for pervasive moral law that we observe? And I admitted, I said, look guys, I said, I know that it varies a bit from culture to culture, but I said, frankly, if you and I, or we saw some kid being beaten on over here by some adult, we'd all rush, regardless of our religious persuasion or background, we'd rush to rescue that child. I said, and at that point, Byron turned to me, he said, well, he said, but I have a real problem with the hypocrisy in religion. And I said, you know, you look at what's going on in the Catholic Church and the molestation of kids and things like that. And of course, I talked a little bit about the fact that, yes, every system has those who abuse it. I said, even the fact that you may have a policeman that may commit a heinous crime on duty. The reality is we all recognize that the system inherently is a good one and is built on a noble cause to protect and serve. And so when I'm in trouble, as they would do the same, we'd all call the police. I said, but you know, let me ask you this question, guys. I said, have you ever investigated the claims of Jesus Christ and the role he played in the equation of knowing God? And neither of them really had. In fact, Andrew asked me, he said, well, what do you mean by investigate? I said, well, seriously look at it. I said, frankly, I said, I know that most people would know some of the claims that Jesus did. And by the way, both Andrew and Byron recognized that Jesus was a person of exemplary character from all that we know in history. So they were fine with the person of Jesus, had trouble with the church, had trouble with organized religion. But the fact is that they recognized the noble character of the person of Jesus Christ. So anyhow, when I asked the question, and Andrew asked me what I meant by investigate, I said, well, to look seriously at some of the things that Jesus said. Because even though he said great things like, and things that most people would know and accept, like love your neighbor as yourself, turn the other cheek, and so on, I said he also said some pretty radical things. For example, he claimed to be the only way to knowing God. So I said if I were starting to really investigate this whole idea of a God and a person that may have connection with God, I would start with the person of Jesus. But before I wrap up, one thing has always been kind of recently has been really playing in my mind, is this whole idea about the concept of the importance of self that humans have. The fact that we are conscious beings, that I look at you differently than myself and understand that you are your own independent conscious being as opposed to me. That's unique as far as scientists are able to tell in the animal kingdom. And I said, guys, my question is why do we possess that? Frankly, I don't think that's even observed in nature or in the animal kingdom. Byron was quick to point out that, oh, he felt that it was, because if you look at among lions, for example, where they have the dominance of the male, the most dominant male, that's a sense of ego. I said, well, not to the degree that we do or understand among human beings, where there's a sense of conscious existence, that I am my own thinking person, you are your own thinking person. We are dissimilar, yet we are similar in that way. And we relate to each other and value each other as individuals who are independent, conscious individuals. I said, in fact, frankly, I think natural selection made a mistake. Because if you look at Western Europe, for example, this whole idea of wanting to better oneself and to sort of have a quality of life has actually led Western Europe, at least among the Caucasian population, of being right now below sustainable levels for its own civilization. So that the reason part for the growth of the Muslim culture in the Western European nations is due, in fact, that the Caucasian population is not even at sustainable levels for civilization. I said, so frankly, I think that's a problem. I said, it makes me wonder, why is there this sense of self? And I said, I would suggest that it may have to do with the fact that there is a God who's created us in His image. And actually, I think I forgot to say that, but that's the point I would want to make. Both of those guys, though, I thought was interesting, stopped for a moment and said, you know, I see your point. And I don't know if they've ever had that conversation with a couple of really sharp guys engaging at that level that seemed to add credence to that question. So I wanted to share it with you. By the way, I'm going to be sending both Andrew and Byron a copy of Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. So if you will, and think about it, think about them and pray for them, that God might do a work in their life, and maybe someday we'll see them again. This is Carmen in Independence Square. Hey, hope you're having a great day. Thanks for listening.